What it do, baby? Yeah.
Fucking, I turned the wheel. He turned that bitch 2 seconds later.
Bro, you shouldn't have came back in here. You got your ass dropped.
The Stanley Portable. This game description was crazy.
Going to the basement.
Say it contradicts contradiction. Said it's having me what the fuck putting in the time and everything.
Oh, oh, oh. Give me this cocaine.
You don't need it.
I need all the drugs.
Hold on, what the fuck? The end is never the end is never the end.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Okay, alright. Oh, alright. I see what they doing. Alright, bro.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Okay.
truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
First, because now I gotta go in the office.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
The hacking thing so I can get the codes.
And got back on track. But it's a freaking lift right here, though. No. Let's get back on track.
Is it this one?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
It's this one right here.
Reflect.
How is it this one? Yeah. Use the code to the save to hack. What's the code? 893816.
What the fuck?
893816.
Who
893816. 89.
Please keep the targets on the
38.
topic of
16. Oh yeah.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
I got the big truck.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
okay. Stanley.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
No, I wasn't. I was going the right way.
Escape. Why does it say escape? Then this shit talking about if light is on, call 914 immediately.
914.
914, like what? But I can escape, but it can't be escaped though. The mind control facility.
I did take the long way, damn it.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Freedom meant nothing.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
I lost the cops,
For
don't worry
he
about it.
would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Oh, hell no. What the fuck?
Come on, come on, come on, come on, thank you.
One,
You
two.
should have moved out the way, dude. Damn, original.
Yeah.
That shit sound crunchy as hell. What the fuck was that?
Hmm?
What was that? That motherfucker said.
Oh, what?
Whatever you eat.
That good old chip right there.
Oh, it's just chips.
Oh,
That good old
motherfucker said.
chip right there. Mind control, idle, emitter, input.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Don't
blackness
tell me.
and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let
Got me at
go.
1.7
No
million.
longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Complete this now. But what if again any of the other trophies are your first? Huh. It was as easy as you're shutting off the switch. But now they say, oh no, it's not over
All of his
yet.
co-workers were gone. What could it
Gotta go
mean?
hit the orange
Stanley
switch.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Hey, I'm glad I chose the good end.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
My boy Stanley got out. He living his life.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
You can't jump. No, seriously, we disabled it. That's a funny trophy.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true
I'm
nature
seriously trying to
revealed.
jump, and it
Each
just gave
bore
me
the
a
number of an employee in the building. Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Utterly blind.
But here was the
to
proof.
world.
The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions.
Blind
Happy
leads
or
you
sad
to heaven.
or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Yeah, maybe in the previous Stanley timeline, but this Stanley timeline, he hit the orange.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood.
Not a moment,
You're gonna
it's
die
silence
anyway.
before you're
I'll tell you
obliterated.
exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not?
Oh, how
These are precious
generous.
additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees.
I appreciate
Oh
it.
dear me,
You
what's the
are
matter,
just
Stanley?
figuring it out.
Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is?
Wait.
Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
Oh,
Happily
shit.
ever.
Until I say happily ever. Dude. Okay. I guess that was
All of his co-workers were
one
gone.
ending.
What could it mean?
I mean,
Stanley
I didn't know
decided
what
to
the
go
fuck-
to the
door
meeting
was
room.
open,
Perhaps
but,
he had
like,
simply
what?
missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley
You ain't
pondered
got me
this, he
fucking
began to
walking
make
through the
other
same
strange
area like 3
observations.
times.
For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be?
My God.
Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's
I
ever
even
been
mean
in his
almost
life.
hit you, just shooting at me for no
Now, hearing
reason.
the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the
I
voice
just
not see him
John
float
Wick
and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that?
I don't think
This
I need
voice was a
anything
part of
from
himself
here.
too.
Kablooey.
Surely, if he could just...
Kablooey.
He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of the world outside this one.
Pull out the minigun, just start
Let me
spraying
wake
these
up,
niggas.
he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream.
Whoa,
I wish it to be over.
Whoa there, buddy.
Let me go back to my job.
Almost killed
Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
What the fuck? I'm still
Stanley began
here.
screaming. Please,
What is this?
someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real.
I am
must be
real,
real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I?
Y'all
And
pulling up
everything
in the
went
whips,
black.
trying to take your boy out. Hold on, let me pull the blick back out. Sit your ass down. Sit your ass.
This
sit
is
your
the
ass down.
story of a woman
sit your
named
ass down.
Mariella.
Sit your ass down, buddy.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other.
I'll see you guys. I
She
gotta go
rose,
steal
got
some
dressed,
documents.
gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular
Have a
day,
wonderful
her
night
walk
now.
was
Al.
interrupted by the
You
body
almost
of a
killed me.
man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance,
Wait, I
for
got
just a
bulletproof
few
tires
brief
on this
moments,
car.
she
How the
considered
fuck
the
they
strange
popped my
man.
tire?
He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like.
They were on the
And in that
straightaway. Get your
moment,
ass back
she
here.
thought to herself how lucky she was to be
Get your ass
normal.
here. Get your ass
I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
What? What? And then she turned and ran. You telling me that was an ending? What type of ending was that? What? And then she ran. She sat there and watched the man on the ground and knew that she was in control the whole time and never realized she had a meaning and they were still there and looked at the man and she ran. What?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
No.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about.
Huh?
Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced
No,
that I want
sir.
something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you,
I mean,
to
you
show
just
you
blew
something
me up.
beautiful.
Fucking
Look,
the last
let me prove
story
it.
was
Let me
bullshit.
prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Okay, we're going through the blue. Not you taking peeks in the door.
Yeah.
Perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
You right, you right.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for?
Oh.
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel
You walk off the edge.
happy. I actually feel happy.
I
Because he
feel
needs
happy.
more right here.
What?
No, wait. Where are you going?
Oh my
Right.
God, it's
Where
beautiful.
were we?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Alright. Okay, shit.
Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
Oh, so you making me. He making me do this.
No! Oh, thank God. You lived. You had me worried there for a moment. Now, can we please get back to the other room? No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
That's probably an ending, though.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
Bro, just hear it.
My
We're
God.
not looking at
Is
the
this
screen.
really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly? Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours. Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
Man, he sounded so fucking...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I'm going back.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
And I need a facility to do this. And I need one of those. What's this one? Oh. But I need
we
worse
taking
stock
it.
for this one.
Okay.
Hey!
Hey! Yeah! Okay, how long is this fucking elevator? Thank you. What the fuck? I didn't go nowhere. Yeah, what? Hey, we ain't gotta go nowhere. We can stay in this room all day.
The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley to take. Too much for any... Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy. So he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
I don't. See, we go for work.
Well, okay, so we get music this run, okay? We get some tracks.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
His violent death? What the fuck finna
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Okay, yeah, I don't have time to fucking start over, so we just go. Fucking, we got it, dog.
But of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Once and for all. Once and for all.
Oh, Stanley.
So at this point, I said, let me try and go in and figure this out somehow, but I couldn't manage to I tried to follow what was on the computer screens that was telling me one blue and all of that, but I don't know if it was working or not. I had no clue. I guess it wasn't, and in the end, you know what happened. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy it and catch you guys in the next video. Thank you.
Or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever after.